Hi, and welcome to Berry Aftercare, the podcast or the live video, wherever you are watching or listening from. I am glad and grateful and happy that you are joining me today. I'm Dr. Connie Stapleton, and I'm going to continue our discussion about habits. And we've talked about how to develop habits, and we've been talking about how to extinguish habits. So, of course, we want to develop the good habits. And when you are a person who is struggling with weight, those good habits can be summarized as what I call the gotta do'ems. You are all familiar with the gotta do'ems, or whatever your program calls them. They're the behaviors you have to do to lose weight and to keep weight off. So we're going to develop those habits, and we want to do that by establishing a behavior with a cue, recognizing what it is we want by doing that behavior, engaging in that behavior, and then being grateful. And we do that until it becomes something we do without even thinking about it. Now, in order to get rid of bad habits, we have to be aware of what they are to begin with, right? So we have to have that awareness, and then we have to put forth effort to extinguish these habits. So today, we're going to talk about a bad habit that many people who struggle with their weight or have had weight loss surgery struggle with, and it gets them in trouble. Like, this is one of the things that results in regain, whether you've lost weight by any means. And for those who have had weight loss surgery, this is a very troubling thing because it's kind of separate from the whole structure of the bariatric programs. We don't talk too much about emotional eating. We don't talk too much about emotional anything or psychological anything. And that's why basically I do the bariatric care program, because it's filling a component that is being missed out on. So we're going to talk about extinguishing the bad habit of emotional eating. Now, some people, including myself, actually, categorize emotional eating on probably the far left end of continuum of addictive behavior. Now, emotional eating isn't addictive in the sense that a person is biologically addicted to a certain food or whatever. But an emotional eater is sort of psychologically dependent on food to deal with emotions, right? That's exactly the definition, really, of emotional eating. We eat in response to emotions. And so for a lot of people, an addiction starts out, addiction, like the disease of obesity, is a chronic progressive disease. So it gets worse over time. And so some people start out as emotional eaters, but they develop a psychological dependency, which can turn into, a physiological dependency or just a all-consuming dependency on food, a lot of times as a way to deal with their emotions. So however you view it doesn't really matter. But if you're an emotional eater, you need to work on extinguishing that as a habit or something you do without really thinking about it. So we'll talk about what an emotional eater is, and I'll give you two specific cues, actually maybe just one today, maybe one on Thursday, depending on how much time we have. And God knows I can talk. Anyway, we will be talking about emotional eating, what it is, and what are some ways that you can get rid of this bad habit or emotional dependency, however you choose to think about it. Now, if you're an emotional eater, you're going to recognize yourself through some of these questions that I ask and in the way that emotional eating is described when compared to eating in response to physical hunger. So some of the indicators, I guess, is a decent word for deciding if you fit into the category of emotional eating. Not that you need these questions, because I'm guessing you pretty much know if you're an emotional eater or not. Although the one area where I find that people, because I ask all the time, anytime I do an evaluation for the pre-surgical psych eval, I ask, do you feel like you're an emotional eater? And a lot of times people say, No, no, I don't think so. But I'm a bored eater. Well, boredom, feeling bored is an emotion. Boredom is an emotion. So if you consider yourself to eat out of boredom, then chances are you fit into the emotional eating category. But here are some of the questions that you can ask and, find out for yourself. Think, am I an emotional eater? Do you eat more when you're feeling stressed? Hello, that kind of gives it away. And most people tell me that they return to the unhealthy behavior of eating junk food or eating emotionally when they're stressed. So, another way to think of emotional eating is stress eating. Some people say the number one cause of regain is stress, to which I always respond stress does not result in regain. Eating results in regain. But I know what they're saying is that they're eating in response to stress. So, what that tells me then is you don't need another diet. You need some coping skills to deal with the stress. So, that's going to fit in today because we're going to talk about developing coping skills and extinguishing an unhealthy habit as kind of the same thing. We're going to replace the unhealthy habit with some healthy behaviors that will prevent that behavior of emotional eating. So, emotional eaters eat when they feel stressed. Sometimes emotional eaters are the big celebrators. They're eating in celebration or because they feel like they deserve some kind of a reward. That one always cracks me up, but I'm not going to get into that today, except to say that what makes any of us think we deserve a cookie because we went to work and behaved like an adult today? I don't get it. Anyway, I'm just making a little bit of fun out of that. So don't be mad at me if I've just offended you. It's just kind of comical if you really think about it. Okay, emotional eaters eat even if they're not hungry or if they're feeling full. Do you eat to soothe yourself, to feel better? Do you eat when you're sad or upset or anxious or worried or scared, right? Emotional eating. Does food maybe make you feel safe or feel like a friend to you? Or do you feel powerless or out of control when you're around food? Some of those things are comments that people who identify themselves as emotional eaters might say. There's a big difference in the quality of eating emotionally and eating because you're physically hungry. Emotional eating is usually kind of a sudden thing because it's brought on by an emotion, right? So it feels sudden and it oftentimes it's very food specific, like not just anything will do. It's got to be this. And you've got to have this and you've got to have it now. And there's a frenzied feeling almost about it. There are a lot of upsetting emotions swirling around, and it becomes almost like an obsession, like it's an urgent thing. It's an urgent matter. There's an urgency behind getting this specific food. And the thing is, when you get it, whatever it is, you eat it absent-mindedly, and so you're not really fully experiencing whatever it is you hope to be getting out of this, except for that momentary, maybe, relief when you've stopped eating, followed by an awful lot of guilt and beating oneself up. And so that's kind of the emotional eating cycle. You eat because you feel stressed, then you feel stressed because you've overeaten and you've eaten junk and you feel bad, and then all that stress and frustration leads to doing what you do to alleviate stress, eating. So it can be a really vicious cycle. So we've got to find a way to get ourselves out of that loop because you're just consumed in it and sucked into it. So if you're an emotional eater, how do you get out of those habits? Well, a couple of components that you need, according to, and I don't know how you pronounce this woman's name, and I apologize because I'm pretty sure I'm going to get it wrong. But this is a registered dietitian named Hala El Shafi. But I love what she says because what she says is that awareness and compassion for yourself are key elements when it comes to overcoming emotional eating. Awareness. You got to know that you're doing this. You've got to recognize that this is emotional eating. And then you've got to be compassionate towards yourself. rather than beating yourself up and staying in that loop we just talked about, returning to eating because now you're beating yourself up and you feel stressed, having compassion for yourself and say, you know what, this has been my default setting. This has been my coping skill, not a healthy one, but it's been how I've coped for a very long time. In order to break this cycle, I have to be kind to myself and work through this one situation at a time, starting with being aware that I just engaged in emotional eating. So let me read her quote in full. Awareness and compassion for oneself are key when it comes to overcoming emotional eating. The key is in making peace with yourself, being a little kinder, and healing the parts of you that have been neglected and accepting that recovery takes time. And I appreciate that quote by Hala or Haley El Shafi because it talks about being kinder to yourself and realizing that this is going to take a while. You didn't develop this habit overnight. Remembering habits are things we engage in without thinking about them, they're just second nature. So, to break the habit, we really have to have that awareness. We have to come to a mindfulness that, oh my gosh, this is engaging in emotional eating. What do I do to step out of this cycle? So, another quote that I want to share with you, and this is by another podcast author. I guess that's what you call somebody who does a podcast. But the podcast is called Food Heaven. I don't know anything about it, but it's a pretty cool title, Food Heaven Podcast by Ali Shapiro. And what Ali Shapiro has to say is, quote, with emotional eating, we assume that we need the brownies or alcohol. What we really need is the self reflection and awareness of what's happening, end quote. So, again, this person is saying we need awareness, right? Both of these people have said we need awareness of what we're doing. Oh, we're engaging in emotional eating. What do I need? I need self compassion. I need self reflection. I need awareness. What's happening here? What am I doing this for? What is going on inside of me? So, what this means is we have to learn, and this is a much longer discussion than this short 30 minutes. But what we need to learn is what's going on inside of me that I'm turning to food for emotional numbing. What is it I'm numbing? So we got to know what's the emotion, right? We have to start with how am I feeling? That is a tricky thing for a lot of people because a lot of people are pretty cut off from their emotions for a variety of reasons, right? Sometimes people are taught in their homes, we don't express anger in this home. We don't even say we're angry. What we say instead is, I'm a little bit frustrated. Well, I'm a little bit frustrated translates to, I'm angry, but I don't like to use the word anger in relation to myself. Frustrated is just a synonym for angry, meaning it's okay to be angry. Every human being feels angry every single day. It's not a bad thing. We also all feel sad. We feel scared. We feel anxious. We feel nervous. We feel confident. We feel joyful. We feel happy. We feel, you know, we feel all the feelings all the time. We just don't know how to label them. The other thing we don't know is how to recognize them. So once a person becomes familiar with the feeling words, and let's keep it simple here and start with mad, sad, glad, or scared, you become aware of what your body experiences when you're sad, when you're anxious. You may notice that when you're angry or just a little frustrated, that your jaw tenses up or your muscles are tighter or you're clenching your teeth. Those are all physiological signs that you may be experiencing anger or anxiety or nervousness or fear. For me, what I'm aware of physically is that um, the bottom parts of my arms, you know, The ulna and radius are in the inside, those bones, and all that stuff covering those bones, like the nerves and the tendons and the whatever the heck we got. What have we got in there? We got some fascia, we got some arteries, all that stuff gets real tingly for me, just in the lower half of my arms, and that's when I can say, something's going on with me. I'm experiencing anxiety. So learn for yourself where your body feels different feelings. When I'm sad, oh man, it's like I am carrying something heavy on my chest. It's just such an uncomfortable physical feeling. So the first thing to become aware of and have compassion for are recognizing your feelings and being okay and knowing it's perfectly okay to have the feelings. Then the question to ask yourself is, what do these feelings tell me I need or what I want? So your feelings are informants. It's like they are there to inform you of what you need. And if you listen to your feelings, if you acknowledge your feelings and don't judge them, right? That whole mindfulness thing. I'm acknowledging that I have a feeling. I'm not going to judge it as good or bad. It's just an emotion. And then I'm going to say, what might this feeling tell me I need? It's not food, I guarantee you. So let's say I feel lonely, right? Maybe what I need in this particular circumstance is I need to feel loved. Maybe I'm feeling lonely because I'm not feeling loved. Or maybe I need to feel valued. I'm in this relationship and I'm feeling lonely, and maybe I just need to feel like I have some more value to my partner. Maybe that's an example. So I could eat because I'm lonely. And in the movies they depict that brilliantly, right? It's the chick on the couch with the spoon and the container of ice cream. That's what we do when we're lonely. But we don't have to. If we're an emotional eater and it's causing us problems in terms of weight and associated issues, then I need to learn some healthier coping skills to deal with the loneliness and to get my needs met in a healthy way. So I've identified and become aware that I feel lonely. I've identified that I need to feel loved or I need to feel valued. Or maybe I simply need some companionship. So I have to make a list of options in my head or on a piece of paper. What are some ways I can get that need met? And are those ways going to lead me closer to what I say I want in terms of my health? Better improved health, fewer comorbidities, better quality of life. So is that pint of ice cream going to lead me closer to that? Not. Is maybe calling a friend or getting out in public and doing something kind for someone else. Or perhaps having a discussion with my significant other about how I would like to be valued or know I'm valued. Asking for reassurance. Now those things would move me closer to getting that need met of feeling valued or feeling loved. And it would move me closer to my goals of staying on track with my physical health. Great example. But first, we have to be aware of how we're feeling. We have to be aware of what we need. We have to be kind to ourselves about the feeling, the need, and then we have to find a way, a coping skill to get that met in a healthy way. Let's do another one, all right? I feel anxious. All right, let's say, oh my goodness, I'm feeling anxious. Not to be confused with I am anxious. This is just a side note because I do these things. I go down the rabbit holes a little bit. It's healthier to say I feel anxious than I am anxious. Why? Because if I'm describing myself, if I'm defining myself as anxious, I might as well say, hey, hi, my name is Connie and I am anxious. That's not true. I am Connie, a human being with various good qualities and not so good qualities. I am not Connie anxious. So to say I feel anxious separates me from the feeling, and I don't have an internal identification as an emotion. So rather than saying I'm depressed, I'm experiencing depression. It takes it away from me, moves it a little further removed, and I'm not identifying myself as depression. So let's say we're feeling anxious or experiencing depression, right? So I feel anxious. What do I need? Well, perhaps I need to feel safe. I feel anxious. I would like to feel safe. Or I'm feeling anxious. What I feel when I feel this anxiety, I need to be comforted. Or I'm feeling really anxious. I need to feel grounded. So those are some possibilities of what a person might need when they're anxious. So what's a healthy way to get that need met? Well, maybe I could ask for support. Maybe I could do some deep breathing exercises. Those have been proven to be very effective to calm anxiety. Maybe I could distract myself for a little bit in doing something productive that might even help somebody else, and I'll get away from this feeling of anxiety for a while. So, again, I've identified how I feel, I've identified what I need, and I've identified some coping skills, some healthy coping skills to get the need met that are going to keep me on track with my meaningful matters, what I want for my life. So, what I'm going to do now is give you a specific exercise that you can use, one of many. There are many of these out there in the world. Listen in at your support group meetings or online or Google how to stop emotional eating. There are a lot of great tools. What I suggest to people is learn as many tools as you can and then say, you know what, this one fits my personality. This one sounds like it might work really well for me. And also keep in mind, we said this at the beginning, but this business of stopping emotional eating, it's not, you can't just snap your fingers and make it go away because so much of it is mindless or subconscious. Habits are those things we don't even think about before we engage in them. So give yourself some kindness, some compassion. And if you have had an emotional eating experience at some point during the day, when you have some quiet time, when you lay down at nighttime or at bedtime, and you're reflecting on your day, and you're like, gosh, I did that emotional eating thing today. So let me reflect on that and ask myself those questions that Connie was talking about. What was going on? What was I feeling? Hmm. What was I needing? What was that feeling informing me that I needed? So, what I did was I raced to the vending machine, or I ran out to the fast food place, or I dug into my desk drawer at work and pulled out, the go to trigger food. But if I had stopped to ask myself, what's going on here? If I could pause just for a moment, make that pause, like we talked about last time, right? Remembering that we don't want to give in to what we want in the immediate, now, present. If we don't give into that, but hold on for what we want in the long term. And we've all decided, I'm pretty sure, that what we want in the long term is a healthier life, healthier physically, and capability of doing the things that you want to do. So, pausing, taking that pause that Andy Stanley talked about, and asking yourself some questions that are important can prevent you from giving into something you want now in lieu of or opting for something you want really, really badly for the rest of your life. So let's talk about what these questions that you can ask for in the pause before you reach into your desk drawer, the pause before you rummage through your purse, the pause before you get to the vending machine or when you're standing at the vending machine. So the acronym that I'm going to give you is STOP, S-T-O-P. We're going to stop emotional eating. We're getting rid of this nasty habit. Stop emotional eating. It's an unhealthy habit, and we want to learn healthier coping skills to replace it, right? That's the goal here. So S-T-O-P, the S stands for stand still. Just stand still. Stop in your tracks. This is where you pause. Take a deep breath. Count to 10. Just freeze. And then the T is for think. Just think for a minute. What's going on with me? How am I feeling? What is this feeling telling me I need? What is it I need emotionally in relation to this feeling? Because your feelings, your emotions, right? What are they telling you that you need? So S, stop, stand still. T, think. How am I feeling? What do I need emotionally? O, options. What are my options for getting my needs met in a healthy way? S-T-O-P, practice and praise. So put a healthy option into practice and then praise yourself for following through. And even if you didn't, even if you just asked yourself the questions and gave in anyway, praise yourself because you are a step closer to following through with a healthier option. So stop, S-T-O-P, stop emotional eating. S, stand still. O, a T, think. How am I feeling? What do I need emotionally? O, options. What are my options? In what ways can I get this emotional need met in a healthy way? P, practice, put it into practice, a healthy option. And then praise yourself, right? This will build self-efficacy, meaning I believe in myself. I believe I can do this. Why? I just did it. So I know that I can do this. So in the same vein of extinguishing unhealthy habits, let's work on stopping emotional eating because I know through my many years of working in this field that emotional eating is a habit that is getting in the way of people obtaining those long-term goals of improved health for a lifetime and a better quality of life. So we're going to work on extinguishing this unhealthy habit. And then on Thursday, I'm going to give you another sort of set of skills to work on to help extinguishing the emotional eating. So for that one, you're going to have to listen in to Berry Aftercare, which is available to you. You can find out more information about it at www.berryaftercare.com. And I have some real exciting things coming up in Berry Aftercare and also for the podcast. So you're going to like this. I know you are. And I hope that you are enjoying this podcast. I do have what they call a call to action, meaning I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. But honestly, it's not as much for me as for somebody else who might be suffering from the disease of obesity, somebody who might be struggling with emotional eating or food addiction or not getting off the yo-yo diet trail. It's to help somebody else as you've been helped because we all need a little assistance, right? So the call to action, what I'd like you to do is to tell somebody else about this podcast. They don't need to be in your bariatric program. They can be anybody who's struggling with their weight. They don't have to be having weight loss surgery. All of these skills apply to people who are struggling with weight at any level. So do yourself a favor, make yourself feel better by sharing something good and help somebody else out. And I will talk to you next time. You know, it would be really cool if you guys leave me some comments. Let me know what you'd like me to talk about in the podcasts and on Berry Aftercare. And I would love to give you some information that you would love to have. So thank you again for joining me. And remember, always and forever, this is your health. This is your responsibility this day and every day. So make it a great one, my friends. And we will visit again on Thursday. Bye-bye.